In the Nightlords trilogy by Aaron Dembski Bowden, there are two vile weapons, the Shriek and the Nighlords astronomican. We will cover the Shriek first. The Shriek is the creation of a heretic tech priest, and it functions as a jamming field, rendering electronic devices dead by saturating them with pure noise. The Nightlords use it to render useless the communication technology of ships and settlements, to stop them getting out a call for help, or to coordinate a counterattack. In this excerpt, Luciferus discovers where this device comes from. The man was only a man in the loosest, most physiological sense. He had no comprehension that he'd ever possessed a name, nor was he truly sentient beyond an ability to express the same tortured emotion over and over again. His creation, his existence, was divided into two planes of experience, which his strangled mind interpreted as torpor and scourging. In the moments of torpor, which lasted for oceans of time between scourges, he drifted in a milky haze of numbing sensation, doing nothing, seeing nothing, knowing nothing but an eternity of weightlessness, and the taste of salted chemicals in his lungs and throat. The only thing that could be generously interpreted as thought was the faint, distant echo of anger. He didn't feel fury itself, but rather the memory of it, a recollection of once knowing rage without knowing why. When the scourging came, it came in a storm of pain. The anger rose again, sparking through the veins of his head like misfiring power cables. He'd feel his jaws opening, his tongueless mouth silently screaming into the cold nothingness that cocooned him. After a time, the pain would fade, and the false anger it brought would drift away with it. Luciferus of the bleeding eyes stood before the glass tank containing the tortured man. He didn't like to stand upright, but some things bore close examination. The raptor tapped a claw on the glass. "Hello, little soul," he rasped in a smiling whisper. The body within the suspension tank had been hobbled, its legs ending below the knees, and its hands amputated at the wrists. Luciferus watched the crippled figure writhing in the fluid, lost in whatever inner torment drifted through its drugged mind. Luciferus hadn't heard the tale, but he could guess the details easily enough. In truth, the Shriek fascinated him. To render an enemy's vessel scanners inert and useless, to drown them in a voxed screed of tormented scrap code. Such technology was rare enough, but still possible in any of 100 ways, with the right genius and the right materials. But to breed electronic interference from the pain of a single human soul, to filter organic agony through the ship's systems and use it to harm the enemy, that was poetry the Bleeding Eyes leader could sincerely appreciate. And that astronomican, which I'll switch over to now, I did do a dedicated video on this before, but it fits too well not to mention here alongside the twisted scrap code device. So, potential psychers. They're numbered 138 in total. Talos speaks to them about the Emperor's astronomican. He says their suffering will make a beacon of his own. The people of the city will feel pain, and he knows the psychers can already feel it. He says, "Let it saturate you. Listen to the screaming of souls as they dissolve from this realm into the next. Let their torment ripen within you. Carry it with you as an honour, for together you will become an instrument, no different from your beloved distant Emperor. You, like he, will become beacons in the endless night, bred from agony. With the pain I give you, with your prolonged agonies, I will choke the warp at the Imperium's edge. Mankind's empire will ignore Segualsa no longer, and will learn an old lesson. It is not enough to force criminals and sinners into exile. You must make an example of them. Leniency is weakness." Later, the husks laid out on each table scarcely resembled humans in any real sense. One was a mess of musculature and stripped veins, twitching its final moments away on the surgery table. The flayed ones were little better. Neither were those now deprived of their tongues, lips, hands and noses. Ruination was complete on each and every one of them. Desecration had never seen such variety. The Nightlord Navigator was walking through a living monument to fear and pain. This was the Legion's imagination giving form. Octavia took a stale breath, moved to the closest table, and removed her bandana, revealing her third eye. "I will end it for you," she whispered to the organic wreckage that had once been a man. It turned its eyes towards her, and the last of its strength faded. lifted its wet gaze to the navigator's third eye and looked into the absolute oblivion, and as she repeated this, the message went out. Astra Telepathica Duct. 16 minutes after its contingent of cyclically gifted souls received the mortis cry from several worlds elsewhere along the duct, the astropathic relay station at of Alas went dark. No trace of its further existence was ever noted in Imperial record. All 544 souls aboard were entered into the Adeptus Astra Telepathica's Chronicles of the Lost at their HQ Bastion on the world Heras, Corosio subsector in Ultima Segmentum. The final astropathic transmission from Avala reached 34 other worlds, strengthening the bleak song past its already potent voice. It took 4 hours, so now seeing the damage this event goes on the larger scale, let's return to the navigator. One by one, Octavia killed them with a secret sight. She passed out as she murdered the 19th. First Claw gathered around the command throne of Talos, who explains what he has done. Each Astra Telepathica Duct is as unique as a fingerprint. One might be created by artifice and intent, several worlds being colonized in alignment near stable warp transit routes, allowing the psychic dreamers on each planet to speak across the untold distance. Others are born of chance and happenstance, boosted by the warp itself, or by a simple twist of fate. This allows a number of disparate worlds the chance to call to each other across the solar winds. The Imperium has hundreds of these ducts. Talos was smiling now. They grow, they fade, they rise and degrade, always in flux, with few other ways to make astropathy even an iota more reliable. There is little other choice. And still, it is an art of casting runestones and heeding whispers from nowhere. Utilising a duct is no stroke of genius, but this one, what we did here, brothers. The prophet sheathed his sword again. The idea came to me when Deltrian first constructed the Shriek. His craft was to turn fear and pain into a source of power. It made itself into a weapon once more. Terror became a means to an end, rather than the end itself. Talos met their eyes, so this brings them to Tsagualsa. Talos said, his voice softer now, "Our refuge and second home." He speaks of the people of the planet, lost, alone, prey. What better weapon to wield against the Imperium than the souls of its own lost children? He says the pain they inflicted was drank in by the astropaths, and when they expired, it was as husks bloated by genocidal suffering. Then they screamed it out upon the moment of death, right there into the astropathic duct. World after world is hearing it even now. The astropaths on those worlds magnify it with their own miseries, adding verses and choruses to the song, sharing it with the other worlds in line. Talos paused, the smile finally fading. His eyes slid from all others, now reflecting the bluish gleam of the hololithic. All of this was possible because of one final gamble, one last way to make the song louder than we could ever have imagined. And that's where we wrap up the video, looking at these 2 chaos weapons of the Nightlords from the trilogy. Great trilogy, read it, check it out, seriously. Let me know what you think about the lore, join me a comment down below, and if you like this video on weapons, try this one.